Hi guys, good morning. Like I said, I've been trying to keep up with what's going on with the election, and I've been trying to make sure I get as much information to people as I can, so they can be fully aware of who they're voting for when they vote for Joe Biden. And as you know, I put out a couple of videos. I had issue with the sound on a few of the videos, so that's the reason why I was able to get that figured out. So I was able to get this done a little bit better now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play a compilation of videos that I found, because sometimes I can tell you what somebody said, but if you hear what they said, then you'll have proof that what you're being told is true. So let me just go ahead and show you guys these right now. And I'm not going to make them bigger just because I have to go through so many.
I am, ironically, more optimistic about the prospects of dealing with the problems we talked about today, as well as so many other problems we have right now, than I've ever been in my whole career. And you say, well, why in the hell would you say that, Biden? You just talked about all these difficulties. Well, I'll tell you why. Because the American public, the blinders have been taken off. They've all of a sudden seen a hell of a lot clearer. They've seen, geez, the reason I was able to stay sequestered in my home is because some black woman was able to stack the grocery shelf. Or I got a young Hispanic is out there, these dreamers are out there, 60,000 of them, acting as first responders and nurses and docs.
So you see his statement, and a lot of people don't understand that these are racist statements, and people see Joe Biden as being some type of harmless person. Everybody call him Uncle Joe, but Joe Biden had another nickname, and it was Jim Crow Joe. And Biden has a very extensive background in being racist. So, what bothers me about this, because if Trump has said a lot of the stuff that Joe Biden has said this year, he would be done in the campaign. They're trying to cancel him just because he supposedly didn't renounce white supremacy, which he's done dozens of times. I'm going to show you that too. And it's and a lot of people think that black people who may support Donald Trump are somehow ignorant of Donald Trump and who he is, and it's not that. It's just that Joe Biden has a history of hurting black people. And what bothers me about it is that I know people can change over years, and people can become better people. But Joe Biden today feels no shame for what he's done as far as the laws and stuff that he passed that hurt black people. He feels absolutely no shame about it. And you're going to see that in this video that I'm doing right at this moment. But on top of the fact that he's unapologetic for how he's hurt black people, he's still being racist. And I think what irritates me so much is that not only is he being racist, he has the audacity to call Donald Trump racist. Not only is he being racist, his party is burying his racism and his racist past, because they don't want you to realize that it was the Democrats under the Clinton administration with Joe Biden's help that mass incarcerated black people and had no mercy and didn't care, arrested them for the littlest stuff, put them in jail for the tiniest things. But yet they want you as black people to award this man the highest office in the land, while keeping you ignorant as a whole to his contribution into the current condition of the black race. So this is my goal, is to show you guys these things so you can see it. So I'm gonna play this again.
I am, ironically, more optimistic about the prospects of dealing with the problems we talked about today, as well as so many other problems we have right now, than I've ever been in my whole career. And you say, well, why in the hell would you say that, Biden? You just talked about all these difficulties. Well, I tell you why. Because the American public, the blinders have been taken off. They've all of a sudden seen a hell of a lot clearer. They've seen, geez, the reason I was able to stay sequestered in my home is because some black woman was able to stack the grocery shelf. Or I got a young Hispanic is out there, these dreamers are out there, 60,000 of them, acting as first responders and nurses and docs.
Okay, so people think because he says stuff so nicely and malevolently, he's not saying it, with an angry sounding voice, that is somehow not racist. It's still just as racist. So we got to pay attention to what he's saying and not allow ourselves to get caught up in the media drama. So let's go to the next video. In this video, he compares the African American community to the Black community. Listen.
By the way, I put that program together to provide. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No. Are you going to re-engage with Cuba, though? I mean, I'm specifically wondering about, the Florida communities that are, incredibly interested in the Cuba issue and see status given to Venezuelans while Cubans are being deported.
The answer is yes. I'm going to engage. Yes. Yes. And by the way, what you all know, but most people don't know, unlike the African American community, with notable exceptions, the Latino community is an incredibly diverse community with incredibly different attitudes about different things. You go to Florida, you find a very different attitude.
So you see him being very nice. He was like, oh yeah, he said it so sweetly, but it was so racist. And yeah, the media did a little reporting on it, but it was low level, under the radar reporting. And no matter how nice you say something racist, doesn't change the fact that it's racist. He basically said that all Black people are alike. And that the Hispanic community is more diverse than the African American community. Listen to what he says. Just listen to this.
Program together to provide. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No. Are you going to re-engage with Cuba, though? I mean, I'm specifically wondering about, the Florida communities that are, incredibly interested in the Cuba issue and see status given to Venezuelans while Cubans are being deported.
The answer is yes. I'm going to engage. Yes. Yes. And by the way, what you all know, but most people don't know, unlike the African American community, with notable exceptions, the Latino community is an incredibly diverse community with incredibly different attitudes about different things. You go to Florida, you find a very different attitude about immigration in certain places than you do when you're in Arizona. So it's a very different.
Do you hear how offensive that is? There are Black people that have different attitudes and personalities and different views when it comes to immigration too. But because he says it so nicely, and Trump is this in your face type person, that Biden is just sliding under the radar with his racism. And on top of him sliding under the radar with his racism, he's not even apologetic about the stuff that he's done in the past to hurt Black people. So let's go to the next video because I'm going to try to keep this short as possible. Now, in this video, he's being questioned by a Black reporter about cognitive ability tests. So then he turns around and he asks this reporter this. Now, some people might say this is not racist, but to me, that was just an inappropriate response to what he was being asked. And based on Biden's history and how he feels about Black people and his generalizations of Black people, this was a racist comment to me.
Mr. Vice President, your opponent in this election, President Trump, has made your mental state a campaign topic. And when asked in June if you've been tested for cognitive decline, you've responded that you're.
And notice how respectful this reporter is.
Constantly tested in effect because you're in situations like this on the campaign trail. But please clarify specifically, have you taken a cognitive test?
No, I haven't taken a test. Why the hell would I take a test? Come on, man. That's like saying before you got in this program, if you take a test where you're taking cocaine or not, what do you think, huh? Are you a junkie?
What do you say to President Trump, who...
That's a CBS News reporter. Of course he took a drug test before he got his job. Why would he ask him? Why would he respond to him in such a way? Such arrogant, callous disrespect. And this is what's bothering me about a lot of this, is because these reporters know that this man is racist. They're silently reporting his racism. But because everybody's jumping on the hate Trump bandwagon, Biden's racism is just sliding right under the radar. And see, people want to pay attention to Fox, CNN, CBS, ABC, all the major news networks. And they're always saying, oh, well, that's a no-name network. They don't know what they're talking about. Well, see, the no-name networks and the little people like Politico and Freedom Forum and what's the name of this one right here? The news junkies, they're following the major news outlets. So their information that they're sharing comes from the major news outlets. But see, what the thing is that the major news outlets will say it for a second and then pull it back. And you never hear anything else about it because they're political in what they do. They're controlled by money. So everybody wants Biden in office. And there's an agenda there that they're trying to sneak in. The reason why, because if the media truly cared about racism, if the media truly cared about Black people or all people, but specifically everything is being targeted, the media is being targeted at the Black vote. So if they cared about us truly, they would be exposing Joe Biden's racism. So it's not that they care about us. They're pandering to our current mentality about the current president to get us to vote for Joe Biden, while ignoring his abuses and atrocities against the Black race and his current racism. So here's another video. And this one is not necessarily against Black people, but this is just some information on how he even attacks the issue of gun control. And that's a big thing when it comes to the Democratic Party, because they do want to take our guns away. And it's all part of a greater agenda. That's another video that I'm going to do for y'all one day. But it's all part of a greater agenda.
This is debates included. Debates included. As soon as you challenge him, he gets defensive and then he gets mean.
Well, he's also a little weird. I think we have a clip that I'm going to show you because I want your reaction. And this is Joe Biden's sort of creepiness on display.
What my dad used to say to his granddaughters.
And let me pause this, because there's a picture that I've been seeing that's going around the internet that everybody's using against Donald Trump. I guess it's a picture with some girl and him and Weinstein. And then there's another picture of Melania Trump sitting on her dad's lap. But yet those same people are ignoring Joe Biden's obvious creepiness. Look at this. Where is that normal?
I got hairy legs that turn turn blonde in the sun, and the kids used to come up and reach in the pool and rub my leg down so it was straight, and then watch the hair
come back up again.
Now, look,
Now, if you finish watching that clip, because I've seen that clip before, now he goes on to say something about, I know about roaches and stuff like that. Now, mind you, he's talking to Black people. So why listen to it? Okay. I'm telling you, I'm going to try to find the rest of that video and I'm going to get that for you because you need to hear him say that. He says, oh, so I know about roaches and stuff like that. What is he talking to Black people about roaches because he assumes all Black people got roaches? But you see how creepy that is? Had that been Donald Trump doing or saying any of that stuff, it would be plastered on the news. It would run for days. They would do whole entire shows on dissecting what he said. But yet, Biden's little creepy stuff just buried under the radar. What agenda are they trying to creep by us?
I don't believe in taking people out of context. That's happened to me before. Quite recently, actually. And it's not fair, it's not right, but nonetheless, that's still odd.
It is odd in context.
Yes.
And you didn't do anything. You didn't edit anything out.
Right.
What you saw is what you got.
Wow.
And Joe Biden is a creepy dude, and he's been that way for some time. But you never realize it until you start focusing in on it, and then you see a repetitive pattern of behavior.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so, this guy's going to be the Democratic nominee, it looks like, increasingly. Do you think he's going to be able to hold his own there on the debate stage with President Trump?
No, I think the president's going to wipe the floor with him. And the most relevant reason I say that is because President Trump has a record of accomplishment. Joe has always been living vicariously through other people, whether it's taking their speeches or taking credit for something that somebody else has done.
Oh, yeah, like he plagiarized somebody's whole entire speech this year. Somebody else's speech. He would plagiarize the whole speech. And remember when everybody was dragging Melania because she did that with Michelle Obama? Well, Joe Biden did the exact same thing this year. I bet most of y'all don't even know anything about it.
Mm-hmm. Donald Trump, if anything, has underpromised and overdelivered. He has ticked down.
I'm going to try to skip through this because I don't want this to be the Trump thing.
Is not of his doing.
I mean, look, people don't want to hear it, but I agree with you. He didn't create it.
No.
It came from China. He did shut down travel with China, which was an important first step. I think he could go even further. I mean, you look at what Israel's done right now. We quarantine. I get it.
Right. And you know what? The governor of California, the president
we should
for Democrats to be rooting against impact that we've ever.
Okay, so we're going to skip to the next video. I thought this had another clip in it that I was looking for, but that's not it. This is it right here. Okay, so I'm just going to play this one. This is the debate between who was going to get the nomination for the presidency. And it's interesting here because Kamala Harris even knows about the damage that Joe's crime bills did to the Black community. I saw, in doing this research, I saw several interviews with her where she states how much damage those crime bills did. So nobody's ignorant of it. So it's just, he wants to slide in and get the Black vote without ever apologizing for that. He's making such a big deal about Donald Trump denouncing this and denouncing that and denouncing that, but he hasn't denounced his crime bill. He refuses to say that was a mistake. He's proud of that crime bill to this day. And I'm going to show you proof of what I'm saying to you all. He's still proud of that crime bill to this day while expecting to get the Black vote. And you guys are protesting the results of those very crime bills. The fallout from them. The ideology and attitudes that are instilled in police today are a result of crime bills wrote by Joe Biden.
Vice President Biden and Senator Harris, your response?
That is simply not true. And as Attorney General of California, where I ran the second largest Department of Justice in the United States, second only to the United States Department of Justice, I am proud of the work we did, work that has received national recognition for what has been the important work of reforming a criminal justice system and cleaning up the consequences of the bills that you passed when you were in the United States Senate for decades. It was the work of creating one of the first
You hear that? You heard what she said? So they know everything that is impacting Black people today. The fatherless homes, the mass incarceration, the inability for those felons that are coming out of jail as a result of his crime bills can't get jobs because they were arrested for petty childish things. He brags about it. He bragged about it when he put the bill on the floor. And he's still not apologetic for it. And they know this. This is what is so infuriating. They put the information in your face and blind you to it. So, okay, so this is where Kamala Harris's own dad has denounced her. I'm surprised that, and you see it on Fox, but how come that wasn't all over the news? Her Black dad denounced her. See, they don't want to tell you that her Black dad denounced her because then that would cause a red flag when it comes to the red vote, the Black vote. That would make Black people step back like, well, wait a minute now. If her own Black dad has denounced her, then maybe we Black people need to kind of pay attention to that. But see, this is the stuff that Black Trump voters know.
There's a family feud on the Democrat side.
Oh, gosh. Do you remember when Kamala Harris, she had that radio interview with Breakfast Club? It was released. We talked about it. She admitted that she smoked pot. When they asked her if she was pro-legalizing marijuana, she said, of course I smoked marijuana. Half my family's from Jamaica. Are you kidding me? Well, her own father had a problem with that. But listen to what she said on the Breakfast Club.
They say you oppose legalizing weed.
That's not true.
I know.
and look, I joke about it, half joking. Half my family's from Jamaica. Are you kidding me?
Have you ever smoked?
I have.
Okay.
Like I inhale. I did inhale.
Okay. It's really hysterical for the former attorney general of that state to talk about doing something illegal, laughing about it, giggling about it, and trying to get some traction for it. Among the people that were upset by it, her dad, Donald Harris.
Now, mind you, this is while locking up Black people for it.
From Jamaica, an economics professor at Stanford University says this: my dear departed grandmothers, as well as my deceased parents, must be turning in their grave right now to see their family's name, reputation, and proud Jamaican identity being connected in any way, jokingly or not, with the fraudulent stereotype of pot-smoking, joy-seeking, and in pursuit of identity politics. Man, what a...
Did y'all hear that? Her dad was not playing. Let's listen to that one more time. Her dad was not playing. He was like, you're not going to stereotype us and our family to try to get in office. But see, this is how they play Black people. They think they can get a Black vote by saying, oh, I used to smoke weed. Yeah, I was down with the party. Yeah, I listened to Tupac and Biggie. They really think y'all that stupid that that's all y'all care about. And you going to vote for them.
Grandmothers, as well as my deceased parents, must be turning in their grave right now to see their family's name, reputation, and proud Jamaican identity being connected in any way, jokingly or not, with the fraudulent stereotype of pot-smoking, joy-seeking, and in pursuit of identity politics. Man, what a blast at his daughter who wants to be the next president.
No kidding. He added... and he had sent this statement to Jamaica Global Online. He said, speaking for myself and my immediate Jamaican family, we wish to categorically disassociate ourselves from this travesty. The campaign...
Now, this is what's so hilarious now. But you got Mary Trump and they got that stuff all over the news, right? Anytime a Trump family member speaks out against Trump in any way, shape, or form, that's all over the news. But yet they buried the fact that Kamala Harris's Black dad has denounced association to her political candidacy at all. And the reasons why. You got to ask yourself, why is this being done strategically by all of media?
Had no comment as of yesterday. It should be pointed out that Kamala Harris's parents divorced when she was younger. and her mother raised her and her sister.
But her father still had a big part of her life, according to reports.
Today she'll be with Al Sharpton in New York City.
Okay, so that's huge. Do you know how huge that is? Do you know how with Donald Trump, and see, this shows you really the class of Donald Trump. As much as they're attacking him, he got so much stuff. He's so busy trying to run our country, but he got so much dirt on these people that if he really started, if he got as dirty as they was with him, but see, the problem of it is they've convinced everybody that everything Donald Trump says is a lie. Like with the $750 in taxes, when in that same article, and so you got to remember, there are categories when it comes to income tax. So federal, $750, and they wanted you to specifically be on 2016, 2017. And he paid only $750. But in 2015, he paid $900-something thousand or $600-something thousand, somewhere in there, a huge, more than any of us have ever paid, probably in our lifetime. And then on top of that fact, he has something because this is a corporation, see, and they're taking his tax situation and comparing it to yours. First of all, he's a billionaire. This is a corporate taxes that they were talking about. The man paid over 23, almost $24 million in alternative minimum tax, which gets applied to his federal tax once they're done with his audit. So when Donald Trump got up there in a debate and said, I paid millions of dollars in taxes, everybody thinks he's lying. But he's telling the truth. It's media that is being deceptive and manipulative. And then what's so bad, and I'm going to say this, and I'm black, so I don't care if I offend y'all. They don't think niggas read. Because in that same article that they were toting around, if you read it, it says it, that he paid $23 million, almost $24 million in taxes. And he paid $900-something thousand. It's in the article. But they don't bank on you reading it. They bank on you just taking that headline and running with it. And then they say, oh, years of tax avoidance. We all avoid paying as many taxes as we possibly can. That's why we claim the deductions. That's why we claim dependents. We all do our best to avoid paying taxes. That's not the same thing as tax evasion. As long as he's not doing anything illegal to avoid, as long as he's using, and notice how he pointed out, while they're trying to point out what he paid, that he said to Joe Biden, dude, them was your tax laws. Don't get mad with me because I took advantage of the laws you put in place. Notice how that story went away real fast because they saw how that could come back to bite Biden in the butt. So and notice how they might throw racists out there, but they're trying to keep everything on the coronavirus, keep everybody focused on healthcare, coronavirus, because they don't want to get too much into race because that's going to come back and hurt Joe Biden. Because unlike Joe Biden, Donald Trump doesn't have that racist history that everybody thinks he has. Oh, his company got sued. Do you honestly think Donald Trump was doing any of that low-level work in his company? No. He's somewhere on a yacht somewhere. One of his employees probably discriminated against something or somebody. And of course, he has to be the one they go to court over. So let's go. And then they're using the Central Park 5 thing. I'm going to let y'all know about that too. That's not even true. He did not call for the execution of those boys. And then everybody wants to say that was racist. You weren't, if you were living back in that time, he just thought they were guilty like everybody else did based on the information that was in the news, like y'all believe the news today, based on the information presented by the police. And then when they got exonerated, he was still doubtful. I don't believe Bill Cosby's innocent. I don't believe O.J. Simpson was ever innocent of that murder. But black people cheered when he was found not guilty. But I thought he was guilty as dirt. Until this day, I still think he was guilty. So some things are just a matter of opinion. It doesn't mean it's a racist bias to it. Because in that same article that they're trying to say he took out to call for, whatever in that case, he says we need to make things safe for Mexicans, blacks, and whites so all families can feel safe. The whole ad itself wasn't even racist. But they don't want to tell you that part. They just want to say, you just look at the headline. That's it. They never expect us to read anything. And that in itself is an insult. So I'm going to let y'all listen to this because this explains the crime bill. Because y'all been hearing a lot about the crime bill that Joe Biden wrote in 1994. But you got to understand, he was also part of the war on drugs under Reagan's administration. He wrote that crime bill too. Almost every crime bill that has come out of Congress that affects and impacts the black community, Joe Biden wrote, and he's proud of them.
Years after the 1994 crime bill was enacted, we are still having conversations about the import and significance of the bill.
That 1994 crime bill, it did contribute to mass incarceration in our country.
It's important.
Now you heard Kamala Harris, right? She said it contributed to the mass incarceration of who? Black people. But see, she gonna keep her mouth shut. She ain't gonna say nothing because she want to get in office. See, they put their political careers, they put their political ambitions over the integrity of the office itself.
That people remember the context of the political environment in the early 1990s.
The other big piece of legislation on Capitol Hill tonight is the crime bill.
Now, violent crime peaked in 1991, and the drafters of the bill didn't know that in 1993 and 1994 when they were drafting and signing it. Urban areas, urban cities across the country were...
Now, you heard what she said. They wrote the crime bill in 1994, but violence and crime peaked in 1991.
Ravaged by crack cocaine, and Americans were afraid of crime. The 1994 crime bill was signed by President Bill Clinton. This was a pretty significant bill at the time, and President Clinton and Senator Biden at the time were right that the bill was significant.
The most significant.
Notice Bill Clinton, Joe Biden, Democrats. That's why they don't want that crime bill talked about, because that's a sore spot for black people. And if they realize, see, they think Republicans is behind everything evil. They got something to do with black people. That's why they don't want you to know that it was Joe.
Federal effort to deal with violent crime in America that has ever been undertaken.
It was important for a Democrat at the time to be seen as taking a significant role in trying to reduce crime and violence in the United States. And at the time, the Congressional Black Caucus was part of the debate around the crime bill. And the Congressional Black Caucus...
That's the guy that just died recently, right? And everybody was all, just because they got our skin color doesn't mean you can trust what they tell us either. You got to do your own research.
Didn't want every provision that was included in this bill. It became clear that the provisions in the 94 crime bill were going to be a political compromise. And so the history is much more complicated than is sometimes portrayed by the media. Now, what did the bill do? Just like a lot of political compromises, there was the good and there was the bad. For example, the bill eliminated 19 types of semi-automatic assault weapons. It also provided huge amounts of funding to hire cops. 100,000 cops were funded. It was about $14 million at the time.
So this is where I say to my people, black people, and white people as well, but this is where I say to my black people, hundreds of thousands of officers were hired as a result of this crime bill. This was just in 1994. with the racist ideology and instructions that they had when it came to policing the community. These are the same ideologies that we're dealing with today. This was only 26 years ago. Some of those officers are probably still on the force as the generals and chiefs. I mean, not generals, as the chiefs and stuff like that. I don't think they got generals. Excuse me, that's my ignorance. But you get what I'm saying?
Time for community policing. The bill also enacted the Violence Against Women Act that provided funding to protect women and victims of domestic violence and crimes against women. But the most pernicious provision of the 1994 crime bill was its $12 billion that was authorized for states across the country that would enact what's called truth in sentencing laws. That funding literally paid states to increase the number of prison beds that they allocated for individuals convicted of violent crime in this country.
Do you hear that? She is telling you that the states were given $12 billion. They were paid to lock people up as a result of Joe Biden's crime bill that Bill Clinton signed. Why do you think people didn't want to put Hillary in office? Because they were scared of the same they was going to get from her husband. Her husband was, and see, that was a lot of the reason why a lot of black people didn't feel comfortable voting for Hillary Clinton, was because they all remember that her husband was the one who signed the crime bill. But what they're trying to slide under the radar is that Joe Biden, who's running for office now, wrote that crime bill. So if you guys didn't feel comfortable voting for Hillary, then you sure as heck should not be voting for Joe Biden. He cannot be trusted. I can see if he was repentant. I'm a preacher, I'm a minister. So I believe in repentance. I believe in people can change. But today, this man has refused, up until today, has refused to apologize for that crime bill and still does not see it as a bad thing. And you're going to hear him say it.
Serve 85% of their sentences behind bars. The reason that
let me back this up a little bit for y'all.
The reason to increase the crime in this country, to serve 85% of their sentences behind bars. The reason that provision is so important, and the reason we're still talking about it today, is the country. Okay,
I wanted to pause this because she said something about the 85% of their time in prison. This is the reason why you got the long sentences, because Joe Biden's law demanded that no matter what the time was for the crime, they had to serve 85% of their sentence. There was no reduction. They had mandatory minimums.
But enact what's called truth in sentencing laws. That funding literally paid states to increase the number of prison beds that they allocated for individuals convicted of violent crime in this country, to serve 85% of their sentences behind bars. The reason that provision is so important, and the reason we're still talking about it today, is the federal government essentially subsidized states across the country to build more prisons. So 25 years later, the crime bill is being debated.
You stood up and used that tough on crime, phony rhetoric. That bill was a huge mistake.
There's no question that crime bill contributed to America's mass incarceration problem.
1994 crime bill, we had a gigantic epidemic in America of violence, particularly in African-American communities. The notion was overwhelmingly supported. It was supported by the Black Caucus in the United States Senate by and large.
And the reason...
You see, he's still not apologetic about it. He sees nothing wrong with that bill and what it did.
That the crime bill comes up so often is, today in 2019, it is hard for so many people to understand why the federal government would pay states to incarcerate more people, given the devastating consequences we know that incarceration causes. But at the time, policymakers felt the need to respond to what they felt was uncontrolled violence. And this bill was the way that policymakers, that Congress could say, we're do something about it.
Violent crime and the fear it provokes are crippling our society. The crime bill before Congress gives you a chance to do something about it, a chance to be tough and smart.
We need to examine the crime bill and all of the federal bills that galvanize prison spending, that galvanize more arrests, more incarceration, and we need to look to the future. And today, the United States leads the world in terms of incarceration. In fact, if each state were its own country, 23 states would have the highest incarceration rate in the world. Any candidate running for election who's serious about criminal justice reform, who's serious about cutting the prison population by 50%, needs to take a hard look at what has worked and hasn't worked in terms of our past criminal justice policies and understand that federal funding to increase the number of beds in prisons across the country is simply not a way to create safer and healthier.
Hey, NBC.
Okay, so there you have it. Are y'all really, as Black people, and I don't want to, because white people might see this video too. Share it with anybody you know. But are you really going to trust Joe Biden with your freedom? Are you really going to trust Joe Biden with prison and justice system reform? Really? And he's still unapologetic for what he did back then? What you think he going to do now? Let me go to the next video. So this is another video from current times, like last year, this year. This is Joe Biden being asked specifically about this crime bill and how he feels about it. And the reason why I'm giving you a precursor to the video, because it goes by a little quickly and I don't want you to miss it. He's going to be asked about how he feels about that crime bill today. And notice that he smiles and leans back with pride. Look.
About how perspectives change over time. Bobby Rush, member of Congress, said the other day, I'm ashamed that I voted for the 94 crime bill. You ashamed of that bill?
Not at all. In fact, I drafted the bill, as you remember.
I know that.
Unless we do something about that cadre of young people, tens.
Now, you notice he said not at all. He's not ashamed of it. I wrote that crime bill, right? Just wanted y'all to pay attention. Pay attention. And then come think about the racist stuff that he is still saying today, this year. Combined with this that you're seeing right now, and you will get a full picture of who you're voting for.
Thousands of them, born out of wedlock, without parents, without supervision, without any structure, without any conscience developing, because they literally, I yield myself 3 more minutes, because they literally have not been socialized. They literally have not had an opportunity. We should focus on them now, not out of a liberal instinct for love, brother, and humanity, although I think that's a good instinct, but for simple, pragmatic reasons. If we don't, they will, or a portion of them will, become the predators 15 years from now. And Madam President, we have predators on our streets.
So when Trump said that he called, Black people predators, he didn't say super predators. That was Hillary. But he did, in fact, call and refer to the mass incarceration of people, and predominantly the African American community, as predators, because that's who he's talking about right here. So when Donald Trump said what he said at that debate, and they shut him down. Anytime he tried to attack Biden, they shut him down. That's why Trump had to go at him the way they did, because they was not going to let him get that out there, because they know that was going to cost them the Black vote if they found out this stuff, because this is the stuff that they wouldn't vote for Hillary for. So they know.
that society has, in fact, in part because of them, will become the predators 15 years from now. And Madam President, we have predators on our streets that society has, in fact, in part because of its neglect, created. Again, it does not mean because we created them that we somehow forgive them or do not take them out of society to protect my family and yours from them. They are beyond the...
I don't want y'all to miss that. Did you hear what he just said? He said he's acknowledging that he realizes that what these people have become is a result of the system, is a result of what was done to them by, I don't want to say white people, but by government and by the governmental system. He's aware that the way they are is their fault. But he turns around and says, even though it's our fault, doesn't mean we should forgive them and let them off. So why should black people forgive him for something he ain't even apologetic for and vote him in the office? Why are we doing this? Fool me once, shame on me. Shame on you. But fool me twice, shame on me. He fooled us the first time when he slid under Barack Obama. And I'm kind of upset with Barack Obama for that. Because I feel like that was strategic in order to ingratiate this man with the black race. Because nobody knew who Joe Biden, black people didn't know who Joe Biden was before Barack Obama. Nobody knew Joe. Let me finish the video, hold on.
Pale, many of those people. They are beyond the pale, many of those people. Beyond the pale. And it's a sad commentary on society. We have no choice but to take them out of society.
Mass incarceration has put hundreds of thousands behind bars for minor offenses. Joe Biden wrote those laws.
Every major crime bill that's come out of this Congress has had the name Joe Biden on that bill. We do everything but hang people for jaywalking in this bill.
Joe Biden's policies destroyed millions of black lives.
You hear him joking? We do everything but hang people for jaywalking in here. The callousness of his attitude.
Joe Biden may not remember, but we do.
But I tell you, if you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, and you ain't black. Take a look at my record, man.
When I marched in the civil rights movement, I marched with tens of thousands of others.
He had not actually marched during the civil rights movement and kept telling the story anyway.
I came out of the civil rights movement. I was one of those guys that sat in and marched and all that stuff.
Now, his aides went back to say, look, he was in office marching for the idea.
That's not the word marching on Twitter.
I was not out marching.
If you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, and you ain't black.
They're going to put you all back in chains.
And you ain't black. Poor kids are just as bright and just as talented as white kids. You ain't black. You ain't black. You ain't black. You ain't black.
The most racist thing a person could tell me is that I'm supposed to choose something based on my race.
You ain't black.
We're red, white, and blue.
That's right. He can run, but he won't be able to hide his record.
We're red, white, and blue.
That's right. We're Americans.
Okay, so I'm gonna go to the next video right quick. I just had to let that slide in there because that was Diamond and Silk's video, so I'm gonna make sure they do get credit for that. Now, you might hear them try to bring up Donald Trump's point of view on crime back then, because the one person that they can't say that participated in mass incarceration, the one person who had nothing to do with that crime bill was Donald Trump. He is the only politician who can say he has never, ever done anything to harm the black race. Yeah, he may have said and did stuff that we don't like, but he has never put any law into place to hurt black people. That is the facts. We may not like his personality all the time, but fact is, he has not hurt us like the Democratic Party, like Joe Biden. So they try to even compare Donald Trump's view on crime as being tougher than Joe Biden's back then in 2000. But that's simply not true, because if you read Donald Trump's stance, most of us are going to agree with that. So I'm going to read this, because they tried to make it seem like he was as merciless as Joe Biden, but he wasn't, because you heard Joe Biden say, we do everything but lock up people for jaywalking in this bill. So he knew the pettiness of his crime bill. But Donald Trump says the perpetrator is never a victim. He is nothing more than a predator. A life is a life. And if you criminally take an innocent life, you better be prepared to forfeit your own. My only complaint is lethal injection is too comfortable a way to go. Criminals are often returned to society because of forgiving judges. This has to stop. We need to hold judges more accountable. The rest of us need to rethink prisons and punishment. The next time you hear someone saying there are too many people in prison, ask them how many thugs they're willing to relocate to their neighborhood. The answer is none. And if you think about that, most of us would agree. I'm black. I don't really want, thugs being, relocated to my home. Now, if they've been rehabilitated and they've paid their debt to society, by all means, assimilate and prosper. I have nothing against somebody who has been in jail, served their crime, served their time, paid their debt to society, and now they're a free, productive member of society, because many have fallen short of the glory of the Lord. So I don't hold people's past against them to say that they can't be better. But if you've taken an innocent life, who wouldn't agree with that? That you need to be ready to forfeit your own. Who wouldn't agree with that? So they always try to use that. That's a non-factor for me. As a black person, that's a non-factor. You'd be surprised. And see, that just plays into the stereotype that black people are somehow soft on crime. No, we're not soft on crime. Don't get the idea that we could, because we protest police brutality and we're against the mistreatment of suspects, because a suspect is just that, innocent until proven guilty. Just because somebody is suspected of a crime or arrested of a crime doesn't mean they'll be found guilty of a crime. So police have to stop being the judge, jury, and executioners on the street. Now, because I'm a conservative and I'm voting Trump doesn't mean that I don't see the racism that's going on in the justice system, in the police departments. But we have to attribute that to not Donald Trump, but Joe Biden. That's the devil is always in the details. He's the one who wrote the laws. That's just the facts, honey. The Democratic Party put that into place. That's just the facts, okay? So then there was this big deal. And I'm going to end with this. I'm not going to come back in after this. But there was such a big deal about Donald Trump denouncing white supremacy. And the reason why that's a non-factor for black people who are supporters of Donald Trump, because we know he's done it 1,000 times. We were probably more irritated by the fact that he was being asked that question again than we were with his answer. Because it's like, how dare you keep asking him that question? And then the way Chris Wallace was asking him questions were completely loaded questions. He was infusing the questions with his opinion, and he shouldn't be doing that. That's complete bias. And so I want y'all to get a complete, I want you to have, like I said, I'm not telling anybody how to vote. I just want you to have a clear picture of who you're voting for and who you're voting against. He may not be the enemy you think he is.
He has yet once to condemn white supremacy, the neo-Nazis. He hasn't condemned a darn thing.
Now,
he has yet once to condemn white supremacy.
Joe Biden said that this year in February. And then when I show you all these clips, you're going to know Joe Biden is a lie. And you're going to know he was lying when he sat there and said that. You're going to know. You're going to see the shade. and that's ABC, right? That's who, George Stephanopoulos. You're going to see actually Chris Wallace witness him denounce it. So you're going to see just how shady when Donald Trump gets up there and say fake news and tells y'all how shady the media is. Stop thinking everything that, I know he's a bit flamboyant, he's a little eccentric, but stop saying everything he's saying is a lie, because it's not. He know what he's talking about.
Supremacy, the neo-Nazis. He hasn't condemned a darn thing. He has yet once to condemn white supremacy, the neo-Nazis. He hasn't condemned a darn thing.
We are a country that stands united in condemning hate and evil in all of its very ugly forms. The anti-Semitic threats targeting our Jewish community and community centers are horrible and are painful, and a very sad reminder of the work that still must be done to root out hate and prejudice and evil. About the neo-Nazis and the white nationalists, because they should be condemned totally. We condemn in the strongest possible terms this egregious display of hatred, bigotry, and violence. It has no place in America. Racism is evil, and those who cause violence in its name are criminals and thugs, including the KKK, neo-Nazis, white supremacists, and other hate groups that are repugnant to everything we hold as Americans. Those who spread violence in the name of bigotry strike at the very core of America. Love for America requires love for all of its people. When we open our hearts to patriotism, there is no room for prejudice, no place for bigotry, and no tolerance for hate. We have it in our power, should we so choose, to lift millions from poverty, to help our citizens realize their dreams, and to ensure that new generations of children are raised free from violence, hatred, and fear. We want our country to be a place where every child from every background can grow up free from fear, innocent of hatred, and surrounded by love, opportunity, and hope. There must be no tolerance for anti-Semitism in America or for any form of religious or racial hatred or prejudice. We must never ignore the vile poison of anti-Semitism or those who spread its venomous creed. With one voice, we must confront this hatred anywhere and everywhere it occurs. We forcefully condemn the evil of anti-Semitism and hate, which must be defeated. In one voice, our nation must condemn racism, bigotry, and white supremacy.
You've got David Duke just joined, a bigot, a racist, a problem.
Would you repudiate David Duke?
Sure.
David Duke and robocalls are out again, the white supremacist movement supporting you. Do you have any words for that?
Well, I disavow. David Duke endorsed me? Okay. All right. I disavow. Okay.
When we looked at it and looked at the question, I disavowed David Duke. So I disavowed David Duke all weekend long on Facebook, on Twitter, and obviously it's never enough.
So are you prepared right now to make a clear and unequivocal statement renouncing the support of all white supremacists?
Of course I am. Of course I am.
When Chris joined, we had a news conference, and they asked me the exact same question. I said, I disavow. I disavowed then. I disavowed today on ABC with George Stephanopoulos. I disavowed again.
David Duke is a bad person who I disavowed on numerous occasions over the years.
I totally disavow the Ku Klux Klan. I totally disavow David Duke. Ultimately, he got to the Ku Klux.
Hey, I wanted to jump in right quick because as I was watching this, I thought about something. Joe Biden has never denounced any of it either. Joe Biden is not, I've never heard, I looked it up. I've never heard Joe Biden renounce or denounce any of it. He told them to cease and desist, which is really no different than stand back and stand by, because he told them to stop. But cease and desist maybe is a little bit stronger. But he told them to cease and desist. That just means stop. That's not the same thing as denouncing them or renouncing them. It's not the same. I can tell somebody to cease and desist, but that doesn't mean that I'm just telling them to stop. But that doesn't mean that I renounce them or what they stand for. So be there. See, you gotta be watching the word games and the trickery.
Klan, which obviously I'm going to disavow.
I've rejected David Duke. I've rejected the KKK, the Ku Klux Klan.
David Duke is saying to his...
Rejected David Duke.
Wait a minute.
Years.
I totally disavow the Ku Klux Klan. I totally disavow David Duke. Ultimately, he got to the Ku Klux Klan, which obviously I'm going to disavow.
I've rejected David Duke. I've rejected the KKK, the Ku Klux Klan.
David Duke is saying to his supporters and followers, vote for Donald Trump. White supremacists are saying, vote. Do you want those votes?
No, I don't want them, and I don't want him to say it.
And you don't want the supporters?
No, I don't want anything.
Now, see, this is... I'm Black, so keep this in mind on what I'm about to say. To me, that's a very stupid question to ask somebody who's running for the presidency of the United States. Do you want their votes? I'm Black and I would want the KKK votes. I would want anybody who wants to vote for me. Just because he gets their votes doesn't mean he's in agreement with what they stand for. And Donald Trump was being so diplomatic by saying, no, I don't want their vote. But I know he's thinking to himself, like, I could be killing myself, shooting myself in my foot. Because, of course, he wants their vote. But he doesn't want to cater to their agenda or what they stand for or their racist ideologies to get it. That's what he should have said. See, I guess I would be too honest for politics because that's my answer. I'd be like, sure, I want their vote. But I don't agree with their policies. I don't agree with their ideologies. I completely denounce anything they stand for. But if they want to vote for me, sure. I need all I can get. I would have said that. But see, that probably would have got him in trouble. But, hey, he's getting in trouble anyway.
Think of white supremacists, by the way.
I don't like any group of hate.
David Duke announced his Senate candidacy, claiming your agenda.
Are you ready before you ask the question?
Newt Gingrich said every Republican should repudiate this guy no matter what it takes.
And I do. Rebuked. Is that okay? Rebuked. Done.
Do you want white supremacists to vote for you?
No, I don't at all. Not at all.
His campaign is denouncing a show of support from the KKK's official newspaper, as in the Ku Klux Klan.
In the same New York Times interview, he denounced white supremacists. He denounced the neo-Nazis who support him.
I spoke out forcefully against hatred, bigotry, and violence, and strongly condemned the neo-Nazis, the white supremacists, and the KKK.
President Donald Trump signed a congressional joint resolution that condemns white supremacy, neo-Nazis, and other hate groups.
In one voice, our nation must condemn racism, bigotry, and white supremacy. Any group of hate, I don't like it. Any group of hate, I am, whether it's white supremacy, whether it's any other kind of supremacy, whether it's Antifa, whether it's any group of hate, I am very concerned about it, and I'll do something.